Returning to our top story, this was a day of protest and rioting in Belgrade as thousands and thousands of Serbs demonstrated their displeasure at Kosovo's declaration of independence. Among other countries, the United States has already recognized Kosovo, and the U.S. Embassy in Belgrade was swarmed and set on fire. Dennis Sandole with the Institute for Conflict Analysis and Resolution at George Mason University joins us now. He is an expert on Kosovo and the region. Sir, what did you make of today's demonstration? Do you think it was a one-day demonstration of emotion, or is it just the start of some bad news?
I think it's more the latter, Mr. Matheson. I think it was anticipated to some extent that there would be an outpouring of Serbian emotional rejection of the Kosovo Albanians' declaration of independence on Sunday. To the extent that the Serbian response on the street is orchestrated with and choreographed by the government may also determine the answer to your question. But whether it's choreographed or more spontaneous, I think this is a sign of things to come. This is the Balkans where regretfully in the last decade of the last century, we saw the genocidal implosion of Yugoslavia, which contains the entities we're talking about today, Serbia and Kosovo.
When the Serbs argue, sir, that Kosovo has religious significance for them, is this entirely accurate, or could it be an overstatement?
It's very accurate. Many Serbs worldwide, including North American Serbs, we have lots in Canada and the United States, as you know, view Kosovo as Serbia's Jerusalem. So this is no laughing matter for them. It's a question of their identity and how they see their identity being ruptured by people who have nothing to do with the region.
So how is it then, sir, that this region, Kosovo, becomes overwhelmingly ethnic Albanian?
Well, before Yugoslavia collapsed, it wasn't an issue that the population of Kosovo, which was a part of Serbia, was 90% ethnic Albanian, most of whom are Muslim. This was not an issue when they were all part of the same entity, i.e. former Yugoslavia. Now that we've had a destruction of the former Yugoslavia and we have separate states, we have Kosovo being a part of Serbia with the same 90% of the population being ethnic Albanian, which also wants to have its independence, as indeed the Serbs do, the Croats do, the Slovenes do, the Macedonians do, and the Montenegrins do. The Albanians in Kosovo want to go the same way.
Oh, now, what do you make of the argument, sir, and we've heard this a couple of times over the last few days, that Kosovo is a country that makes no sense. It has no economy to speak of, no infrastructure. The group that declared independence did not include any ethnic Serbs, and I take it that's 10 to 15% of the population, and really has very little chance of success.
This is one of the remarkable contradictions, challenges about the issue of identity. It makes absolutely no sense economically for people to be prepared to die to defend Kosovo for all the reasons you've just cited, Mr. Matheson. And Serbs themselves will say everybody wants to die for Kosovo, but nobody wants to live there.
So what needs to be done, sir? You're into conflict resolution. What do we need to do to prevent things from deteriorating here? Is there anything that can be done?
Regrettably, the United States, as you know, has been preoccupied for some years now, nearly a decade, with a one-dimensional issue, that is to say Iraq, and the global war on terrorism, and everything else has sort of fallen by the wayside. No one's been watching the store. The State Department of the United States had a very good man, Nicholas Burns, one of the undersecretaries of state, who was a Balkans person, but he stepped down. And since that's happened, I don't think there's anybody at the U.S. State Department who's paying much attention to what's going on in Kosovo. It's been kind of left to the EU. Now, the EU and the United States, along with the Russians and the United Nations, constitute this entity called the Quartet, who are kind of the international community responsible for the benign destruction of former Yugoslavia, trying to render more peaceful an otherwise chaotic situation. And I think it's basically up to those members of the Quartet, the Russians, who are very much in support of Serbia's rejection, of course, as you know, of the independence declaration on Sunday. But the U.S., together with the EU, the Russians, and the United Nations have got to come together and do basically two things, one of which is, I think, in the short term, to prevent violence from skyrocketing out of control. And here the Serbian government has got to be approached, perhaps through their Russian allies within the context of the quartet, to hopefully stop, if they are manipulating, the passions of the Serbs in the street. And on the Albanian side, the Americans, who are loved by the Kosovo Albanians, have to deal with them similarly as well, to avoid the Albanians responding in like fashion to Serb provocations. But in a longer term, we have to have people working on the Albanian-Serbian relationship to convince the Serbs that they're not losing anything by losing Kosovo. In fact, once again, as in the old days, Kosovo and Serbia will be a member of the same common overarching entity, i.e. the European Union. That's, of course, down the road, maybe 10 years from now. But somehow that message has got to be communicated to the Serbs, that they're really not losing anything and have everything to gain by, in a de jure sense, letting go of Kosovo.
Dennis Sandole, nice talking to you tonight, sir. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Matheson.